It is a very tight schedule today, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I've just come back from the gym. I was the only person that showed up to the class, so I think I was tested. The trainer was testing my mettle, and hopefully we will continue to be tested by these artists out here who are challenging us, just like Ed Marola on a regular basis. Yuri J, shout out. Hello everyone, welcome back. Artist Journal, March 13th, 2023. Broadcasting from a cloudy Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back. And there's this scene, artist reporter, but there is so much going on, and we're going to try and tackle all of it here. And again, it's been 72 hours, not even, since the last time we talked. Anyways, welcome back, everyone. Look at this stunning work by Ed Marola. Almost want to call it totemic. There's always kind of a bit of an ancient feeling to Ed's work. It's almost see this structure over here? This one over here, which almost looks there's a word for it. We're going to get to these words. There is a word for it. It's just outside the Colosseum. What do they call it? A triumph. I think they call them a triumph. These things here, like a Roman triumph, where it's just like a big arch with, something historical, a military victory, sometimes by the Romans. I believe we call those triumphs. And just like this triumph here, or, really an archway that's kind of cracking, looks like some rustic Greek island here with some ruins. That's almost how the whole piece feels. And that's why we love Ed's work. And there's a real poetry in this one, which is why I'm starting. And again, diverting from the purple and what is it, blue? And it's extraordinarily powerful. It's fun to start with very limited palette and then slowly grow out. And then you get incredible effects like this. A one of one, it sold for 80, which to me, it could have sold for 800. Sometimes the work just hits. So Ellie Trader, after an hour, or maybe 40 minutes, this sold for 80 Tezos. Deal of the day in Pocobelli world here. Burner, awesome title as well. Procreate and Asebrite. Continuing on, so I just want to bring us up close here, just so we can look and marvel at this beautiful, would you call it an animation? I'm not even sure that that's the right word for this, I guess. And so it's just stunning. It reminds me of that work he did, Pocobelli's Stream. That was, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. So anyways, we're not going to get through this episode if I keep marveling at, and look at this green laser, which is kind of disrupted here. So the depth of this scene, and we got a few more actually, so let's get to it. Landscaper. Ed was productive. Apparently, he put out a tweet, one baby in his arm. And we're actually going to get to Ed's mom. And shout out to moms everywhere, including mine. Shout out, Mom. We have actually a special piece for all moms out there. Actually, it's sort of Mother's Day. Mother's Day came early. And anyways, another stunning piece here. Landscaper, and here we are up close. And what is this? And it looks like a vase. Is that a signature? It's always just kind of totemic, is what I want to call Ed's work. And so anyways, fascinating work. And finally, another painter. And look at the sky. And I think I brought this up, 15 Tezos, edition of 22, and I believe I brought this up close. Here we are. And again, that really interesting, again, quote unquote, animation. So, and his, typical figures here. So I think this is what happens, and maybe that's Ed with the beard there, tempting to think, and the painter, and there he is on the palette. So there's a lot to love in these works here, and there's just a lot to love. And finally, one more, Egg Thief. And again, just like this one-of-a-kind, unique pixelation here, beautiful contrast with this kind of, what looks like a predator coming after the eggs here, with this beautifully lit grass in the darkness. Shout out and thank you to Die With The Most Likes and Skomra. So Die With The Most Likes picked up this work on Super Rare from my Peloponnesian War series. So That means a lot. This series very quickly, it's kind of like, I call it like orphaned, because half of it, actually 3/4 of it, 150 of these things are on OpenSea. You can't buy them. I'm bringing them all slowly onto super rare. I don't know if it was a good idea or not, but it just feels a little bit more precious putting them on super rare. So, but it costs money to mint and yada yada. So I'm using the funds really to mint. When gas fees go low, maybe we'll get a nice drop in Ethereum here. Here's hoping. Anyways, this is based very, very quickly on Thucydides' Peloponnesian War. And my idea was to do a 200 trading card art book. And so, and I'll bring up other, as I always say, I'll show you what it looks like physically. But I'm selling the NFTs here, and most of them are sold on super rare, or 50 of them are available on super rare. Anyways, thank you, Die with the most likes. Finally, on these, what I'm doing here is combining Greek vase imagery and Thucydides' text and fragments from Thucydides' Peloponnesian War series, and then just other stuff mixed with sort of modern iconography. I kind of combine words and image and number. So it's kind of about reading at the end of the day. How do we read information? And this we read as image. This we read this D and this G and this 8 as text. And that's also part of what it's about. It's about many things. Anyways, thank you. That went for 0.14. And I'm thrilled to just see these move. And thank you especially to Scomra, who triggered both auctions here. Outbreak of the War, kind of topical. Shows how these themes here. And Thucydides, for those that don't know, is considered the first kind of quote-unquote scientific historian who tried to get it right, accuracy. And we're actually going to try and get some accuracy in this episode here in the spirit of Thucydides. So anyways, here's another one. Again, thanks, guys. That warms my heart. And thank you again to Ahek for making a couple of offers on these works. I was surprised to have two. Ahek messaged me. He's like, hey, will you let go? I was like, oh, I didn't realize I have two of these. So yeah, of course I'll sell one to you. He's buying other work, and sold him a Super Mario 2. I sold them for like 25 and 30. Pretty cheap, but Ahek, again, bought a work off super rare. So it's good to reward your collectors, and that's sort of how I feel about it. So thanks, guys. Totally appreciated and totally awesome. Just a comment. Scomra talking about Elvis in Vegas, and we'll have to come back to that, actually. While Will disposed, I'm assuming you're in touch on the developments in the Claire Silver situation. In the next journal, it is alleged they were duped by a Paris Blockchain Week representative. So this was written a day ago, and the whole tone has changed to the pain of disappointment. Exactly, and we're going to go into this, hopefully, finally. And I think, again, it must be incredibly disappointing for Claire Silver, Super Chief Gallery. I'm sure even Paris Blockchain, whatever happened over there. It does seem like just kind of difficult and disappointing. We're in the spirit of Thucydides and accuracy, we're going to kind of go in a little bit and just kind of untangle what seems to have happened over the weekend. I was talking to my mom yesterday, and I thought she would have, because she's on Twitter now, and I thought she would have kind of known, and she didn't really realize everything that had happened. So just for the sake of the record over here in my journal, I'm just going to go through it, and then hopefully we just close the book on this and move on. So the pain of disappointment that they must be feeling. So it's turned to disappointment. Though with such an immense social media reach, a very tangible lesson about the importance of due diligence for everyone coming up in these internet communities, a potential net positive. And I think that's a nice way of looking at it. And thank you, Gogolitis. I never thought about flipping horizontally my sketch. So referring to 0009 and what I call the Leonardo technique. So for the sake of completeness here, so this article was corrected about the Louvre Museum. So it's official that the museum itself has denied, of course, and we all basically, most of us watching this already know this, but there are a few that don't, and it's just because there are some people who are saying the Louvre is the Louvre, and what difference does it make? The carousel, it's all in the Louvre complex. Well, here we have it specifically stated. A spokesperson for the Louvre told CoinDesk that the information reported, quote, is not true, referring to the original post. There is no exhibition of this artist at the Musée du Louvre, a spokesperson said. So just to, because I know there's people out there that are like, oh, what's the difference? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It matters. And just a final confirmation, Jay Coates put out this, I wrote the Louvre. So, I mean, that's what's so tricky about social media these days. I recently read a small article that Claire Silver will have an AI exhibition at the Louvre. So he wrote the Louvre, basically saying, is this true? Dear sir, thank you for the message. There is no Claire Silver exhibition scheduled in the Louvre Museum. The event, Paris Blockchain Week, is not located in the Louvre Museum, but in the Carousel du Louvre. So it's unambiguous now. Okay, and so Claire Silver clearly is disappointed, and I guess we'll read her most recent tweet. And like there was a tweet put out on Friday afternoon. Let's read the most recent. I would rather eat ramen and make art alone for the rest of my life than deal with the situation another day while my quote-unquote friends laugh at my heartache. I'm unsure who misrepresented things. I respect that what both parties do for digital art. Now please leave me the F out of it. So this kind of dialed back actually a little bit the statement on Friday. Now the statement on Friday, I was surprised to see here. And again, you got to feel for Claire. Again, and it would have been nice to be in the Carousel du Louvre. Like, from my understanding of it, the more I learn about it, it seems like a pretty high-end shopping. Like, it's a pretty high-end place. It's not like anything to be disappointed about, in a sense, to show there. So it's just kind of sad for her, clearly. And obviously, she's had a very tough week. Now, just for the record, I was surprised to see the previous tweet that came out on Friday was deleted. And actually she added to this, very grateful to everyone who showed me such love and support. It pulled me out of the headspace I don't want to revisit. I won't forget it and I won't forget you. Yeah, so again, so you have to feel for someone that had, it's a very tough week. Okay, but nevertheless, the tweet from Friday appears to have been deleted. I can't find it. And actually, I reloaded it. I had the link to the tweet, and it didn't show, like it was deleted. So I kind of wonder, you see this, I'm unsure who misrepresented things. I respect what both parties do for digital art. So it's interesting. It seems to be slightly dialed back a little bit. I don't know if that would be William Morris Endeavor, not Entertainment, WME, who said, I don't know, or maybe Paris Blockchain. Who knows why? Maybe just wanting to move on. You could speculate all sorts of things. Was there illegal? So anyways, all to say, she just wants this to end. And the previous tweet was deleted. However, for those that didn't see it, NFT Now actually has a lot of it. So here is the original tweet. This is obviously not so this is Claire Silver from the other day. This is from the Twitter thread that she posted. This is obviously not what Super Chief WME or I had understood. At this point, I'm going to pull out of the Paris exhibition altogether, and I'm considering further options, which also sounds kind of legal. Now, so this came out on Friday afternoon, and I have to say, from my perspective, it kind of, WME, which seems to be a pretty high-end PR agency, William Morris, okay, we've all heard, most of us have heard of William Morris. I didn't know it was Endeavor, but I've heard of William Morris. The Friday afternoon thing was kind of reminiscent. And in that original tweet, she said, I've been wanting to say something all week, but I haven't said anything because I've been told not to. And then it was the Friday afternoon, at least from my understanding. Correct me if I have it wrong. And it was reminiscent of the Clinton White House. They're famous for doing the Friday afternoon document dump, right? And then by the time Monday starts and the reporters go back to work, there's no more tweet. So this is, you wonder how much WME is kind of like, and I'm just purely speculating and who knows, and it doesn't matter in a sense, but I'm sharing this is my journal. Okay, and I share my private thoughts publicly. I assume that by the time the Variety article came out, everything was ironclad and in writing. That was a mistake. I don't blame Super Chief, my team, my agency, or Variety, all of which I admire and respect. I blame the person from Paris Blockchain that repeatedly misrepresented the event, and I blame myself for not having it in writing before letting my excitement and naivete carry me to Twitter. So this seems to be in the last tweet, as I just pointed out. I'm not sure who misrepresented things, so it's kind of dialed back, and that tweet was deleted. So finally, and I want to just move on from this whole thing, but for the sake of completeness, Super Chief Gallery, who also works with Claire and was involved in this whole situation. Hey there, everyone. To be clear, Paris Blockchain Week lied to our faces. Directly to our faces in their offices in Paris, they told us Paris Blockchain Week had rented, privatized, quote unquote, the Louvre Museum. They said the Louvre Museum had an event rental area for the conference and that they were excited for us to come in as their quote unquote art partner. This was all offered to us less than 1 month before the conference. We said very clearly, if it will get our artists the opportunity to show their work in the Louvre Museum, we will move heaven and earth. And that was a quote, and they smiled. So, yeah, so you can see everything here that is still up. And so, yeah. I mean, I would have had a ton of questions from my own perspective. If I'd be asking like 100 questions about what do you mean the Louvre? But I mean, not everybody necessarily knows. And finally, this isn't meant to do anything other than capture the record here, but the person who wrote the article that went in Variety was not impressed. It's classy to preach here, but not attempt to rectify this with the industry's paper of record. So Matt Donnelly, the person that Matt Donnelly, though, to be fair, I think it's a reporter's duty to actually vet the info. So again, a lot of times reporters will take press releases, will take press releases and then basically craft stories out of it. I think Matt Donnelly actually has to take some responsibility here as well. Yeah, I don't think anyway. And finally, Paris Blockchain Week has not responded. And so that's interesting and in itself. Seems like a pretty massive event. They're quoting CZ here and everything. So anyway, all very disappointing, I'm sure, for Super Chief and Claire Silver, without question. And I think that's all there really is to it. And it seems kind of unfortunate because I don't think any of this really had to happen. And I think everybody would have been happy with showing at Paris Blockchain Week in the carousel. It was just a, communication snafu that went out of, that ran away with itself, really. And here we are a week later. Has it only been a week? RJ. So moving on to the art here. Thank you for the shout out, Pocobelli, and super interesting to hear your speculation. It's actually the other way around. The composition is original, and then I've made outputs from the prompt to see how close they come. So I was speculating here that RJ had made a prompt and then was basing his work on the rendering that he got, and in fact, it's actually the opposite. He made the work, and then he was trying to get renderings based on his work, and so here it is. So it sounds like he made this work first, not after, and then put this in, and then these were the renderings in the AI. They're actually quite poetic works here. Quite think about it. I would never make a closed laptop like this. It's very minimalistic. It's actually a super interesting composition. And frankly, you could make I'm almost like RJ, make a work, based on these. This is another super interesting render. Is there anything more? What I'm really interested in at the moment is the connection AI creates between language and art. I.e., if a prompt produces art, does the prompt itself count as the art? Here's a variation, for instance, that might be coming to holders. Well, wonderful. I picked one up. And here is a different prompt. And again, some actual outputs to the prompts here. So I'm wondering, so again, RJ makes this prompt here, a dystopian urban cityscape with tower blocks and neon lights in a cyberpunk style with a blue hue. And then he's actually doing the opposite of what I was saying. So isn't this interesting, though, just to see how different people are using AI? And then he takes his prompt in the art piece and then sees what is rendered. So pretty interesting. Shout out to RJ. I love your work. You know that. Human Boy put together a gallery of one of our favorite people here, Eile. And look at how great it looks. Like, look at this. Like, and what I love about this is, Eile started minting works, I feel like, since January, maybe December. I don't know. Like, it's been pretty recent. And here she is in the metaverse with a big solo show here, courtesy of Human Boy. So how cool is that? And they look fantastic. He did an excellent job of the display. And of course, the works themselves, that's not possible without beautiful looking works. These look fantastic. So super cool, guys. This doesn't, you know what I love about this? This doesn't require anybody. This doesn't require permission from an institution, anybody. They just, you made the work. I'm going to do this on my own. Nobody even has to ask. And here, check it out. And Eile's thrilled. I love it. So interesting comment. This was sent to me by Ed Marola. This is super interesting. And he's like, I'm curious your thoughts on this. Most people in Web3, this is Mid Lambersky. How are we doing here? Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Most people in Web3 don't really know the meaning of the word as far as curation. And this is replying to Greku's statement here. Let's read this first. Being rich doesn't make anybody a quote-unquote curator. Curating requires some expertise in aesthetic, art history, contemporary art, and philosophy in general. And Mid Lambersky, most people in Web3 don't really know the meaning of the word. Curators are essentially writers. Interesting. A person being a curator is about putting an artist or their work in context and going beyond even what the maker says about their own work. Arranging JPEGs isn't being a curator. And when I first saw this, it was said with such authority that I thought, well, maybe he's totally right, and maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about, or nobody, maybe none of us know what we're talking about here. It was said with such, but then I was like, I don't know if that really fits into our current understanding. So I looked at a few definitions here. What is art curation? Let's just see what the web tells us, just as a first pass at trying to understand what actually a curator is. As I've said, a few times here, I've never studied curation. Okay, so in a sense, I do. If someone claims to know more, I'm listening. Okay, so let's just see what Google has to say. This is courtesy of Tech Target, for what that's worth. Curation is a field of endeavor involved with assembling, managing, and presenting some types of collection. Curators of art galleries and museums, for example, research, select, and acquire pieces for the institution's collections and oversee interpretation, displays, and exhibits. And my modern Met here, curating is the act of selecting, organizing, and presenting objects for display. And Wikipedia, a curator is a manager or overseer. When working with cultural organizations, a curator is typically a collections curator and an exhibitions curator. Art Gallery of South Australia, the word curator originates from the Latin cura, so here's helpful, which means to care. So that is interesting. That helps a lot. Curators are employed to take care of collections. And that's also something like I would also, Santiago was mentioning in our Twitter spaces where we discussed curation and if the role of the curator has changed. He was like, we should call it showcasing, not curating. And I wonder if that comes from kind of having a bit more knowledge of what curation is. And finally, Hans-Ulrich Obrist, who is a pretty prominent curator, today curating as a profession means at least 4 things. Okay, we'll look at this actually very quickly. It means to preserve in the sense of safeguarding the heritage of art. It means to be the selector of new work. It means to connect to art history, and it means displaying or arranging the work. But it's more than that. Before 1800, few people went to exhibitions. Now hundreds of millions of people visit them. It's a mass medium and a ritual. The curator sets it up so that it becomes an extraordinary experience, not just illustrations or spatialized books. So that is kind of my impression of what a curator is. So I'm not sure. I mean, Mid Lambersky is saying it with quite a bit of certainty here, but I'm actually, the more I think about it, I'm not actually convinced. Curator from Oxford Dictionary. And for those that don't know, OED, what you learn when you do a master's in English literature is the Oxford English Dictionary is kind of the dictionary. Okay, as far as like the scholars are concerned, that's new. That's something they tell you. So there's a little tip if you didn't know that. As far as Oxford languages, so OED, I assume, curator is a keeper or custodian of a museum or other collections. So keeper or custodian, the curator of drawings at the National Gallery. And the second definition, a person who selects acts to perform at a music festival. So in a sense, Oxford would defer with what Lamberski was saying here. Here's Ed's mom, Katya Politzer. And it was, by the way, the fact that I started with Ed today is completely separate from the fact that he was messaging me, just so everybody knows, and people can feel free to disagree or whatever. But that first work, I had to start with that. Katya Politzer. So this is Ed's mom, who is an artist, and I was like, and he's like, well, my mom's talked about it and everything. I was like, well, what does Ed's mom, what does your mom have to say? And so here's what she said. Usually not an artist, more like a scholar, someone who studies a lot of art history and movements, gets to understand the artist statement deeply and make connections between different artists and their time, understands aesthetics and philosophy. Curators might work for galleries, institutions, or freelance. They organize exhibits, choosing the artists and the themes in the artworks. Create a curatorial context uniting all artworks under a unified understanding. They can organize the art to illustrate ideas. Up to a point, the curator is the one who chooses the order the artworks will appear and why. Curators hired by galleries will work to showcase the art under the gallery ethos, maybe looking for new opportunities. So that's courtesy of Ed's mom, who you can see here, Katya Politzer. So big shout out to all the moms out there. And Kevin Crypto, I love this series. This is one of the first series I saw. This just got released. So shout out to Ed's mom and shout out to my mom again. Hi, Mom. So here's a nice gift for Mother's Day. Unfortunately, is it still available? It's still available. I might have to pick this up. Okay, and then I was looking at ChatGPT, and so you guys can do that. We actually can't go through all this. Maybe we'll do that in a future episode, though. Spargels Maskinen. We'll come back to the curator thing, and I'm curious if you have comments. Again, feel free to share. Spargels Maskinen. Good night. More about the pre-sale and mint dates for Screensavers tomorrow. So that's today. So check this out. So put out this like trailer, this NFT trailer, and let's see if we can.
What do we have here? Oh,
so cool. I bet he made the music too.
something's happening to my transmitters.
That's so cool. So I'm excited. I mean, you have my attention, Spargels Maskinen. Speaking of attention, Gogolitis, look at this work. Gaze upon the jellyfish. So we have a poem here. I would read it. This is made with Aseprite, but I have to run. So another just super cool work. And again, remember, Gogolitis makes basically pixel art, but what's so interesting about the last few pieces is it's almost starting to get like it doesn't look like pixel art anymore. It's getting so smooth, you might say, these works. So I just find that super interesting. So here's a beautiful, beautiful work by Gogolitis, Jellyfish. Buy now for $280. Edition of 100. I'm still recovering from this incredibly intense gym workout. Did I mention I'm the only person that showed up? So they the trainer there tested my mettle. Gogolitis, check this out. You do pixel art, you use Aseprite. Do you find it frustrating only having 3 options for creating your gradients with dithering? If so, you can download these additional dithering options. So how cool is that? So there's a link here to go to Gogolitis's feed and check this out. There's the guy who made the repository here. Hey, thanks for sharing the repository. I'm glad more people are having fun with dithering. I think I've created some more patterns since last time. I'll probably update the repo next week. So the fun of Twitter and this digital world, how cool is that? And you see all the different kinds of dithering there. And a work in progress from Gogolitis. And yeah, in his Twitter spaces that we did, where we featured Gogolitis, he mentioned how he did stuff in about 20 hours. And he's like, I thought about it many times after that, and I was so wrong. It's way more. I just don't realize how much time I spent on that. And I was saying, well, me and Runetoon are relieved, because Runetoon afterwards was like, I can't believe he makes that in 20 hours. That's insane. So anyways, here's Gogolitis, work in progress. Looks pretty awesome. I think we have another one. Yeah, so look at how cool. This is going to be a pretty epic work, as usual, as we expect, and really interesting composition and just a ton of fun. I want to play Outrun, Gogolitis, so something to look forward to. More cars. So I had speculated on this Yuri J that it was referencing Ballard's Crash and also the Warhol Crash series, and it is, because this Crash by David Cronenberg, 1996 movie, is actually based on J.G. Ballard's Crash. And so this was a very controversial. It was banned, actually, I think in France, of all places, to ban it. I think it was banned in France because there is a very... Now, Ballard, for those that don't know, is considered sometimes to be the last classic surrealist. I wrote my master's thesis on J.G. Ballard in the Atrocity Exhibition, which is a novel that he wrote before Crash. There's a chapter called Crash in the Atrocity Exhibition. So I'm deeply familiar with this work, and I'll never forget, I saw the movie, the David Cronenberg movie in, where was it? It was in 96, so probably in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And there was like 3 people in the theater, and like 2 of them laughed. Like it was basically me and my friend and one other person left. So it's a very provocative thesis, and basically sex and car crashes. So now Ballard, yeah, it was a very provocative but fascinating. I think, still underplayed as far as the importance of Ballard plays. But that's the thing with, in my opinion, great art stands the test of time, and great writing, and it's just not going away. Anyways, so now Ballard, as he said, my thesis was basically on how the visual artists were his main influences, not writers, not Conrad, not Graham Greene, although he read both those authors. It was actually the visual artists that inspired him most. So this series, this very, very, disaster series is what it's called by Warhol, features car crashes, and it's one of the darkest series of modern art, I would argue. And here you see car crashes, beautifully rendered. So there's a massive contrast, and it's unsettling because there's some of Warhol's most beautiful works, but then when you look at the content, it's completely disturbing. Real car crashes from newspapers. A shocking series here. And so, again, though, you see Gagosian. But these are among some of the most kind of prized contemporary artworks that exist. I mean, there's some of the most, So Ballard, clearly in my mind, this was put out in the 60s, this series, the Disaster series, as far as I understand. And Crash was written in 73. And the first one, the chapter in the Atrocity Exhibition was 69. So to me, it's pretty clear that Ballard's Crash was a direct response to Warhol. Because again, and this is the tradition that sees the pop artists as in the lineage of the surrealists. Okay, so that's a very interesting, fun way of looking at the tradition of art. Okay, so again, these I don't even want to say it, but these stunningly beautiful works of these horrific images. Okay, these are real people. As far as I understand, but so some of the most provocative works that exist, in my opinion. And here's another one. Again, look at you have this horror and beauty mixed into one. It's like the electric chairs. And anyways, so here's the novel Crash, and you see all the different covers here by J.G. Ballard. And we're going to go into it in a future episode. This one is already going long. The introduction to Crash is one of the most important essays of the 20th century, in my opinion. He rewrote it in 1995. It was originally written in like 73, 74. And it's an incredibly important essay, and you can find it online. And we'll come back to it. And finally, speaking of Ballard, we have an artist that is actually referencing a short story collection by Ballard called Vermilion Sands. And that's going to be on Nifty Gateway today, Monday, March 13th. So how about that? A series of digital collages was inspired by my readings of J.G. Ballard's short story books, Vermilion Sands, first published in 1971. In his forewords, Ballard explains that he wanted to discover the connection between certain feelings and sophisticated landscapes. He also thought about de Chirico's little town squares, actualized and translated as functional multi-story car parks, and the exploration of a universe totally dominated by trends and fantasies, the neoclassicism of advertising and commercial iconography. So we'll go back to Ballard. He is essential, in my opinion. So I think he would have liked these works, frankly. Even kind of like, this looks like the car he would have driven. So anyways, and another episode of Life Imitating Art. After he wrote Crash, he got in a big car accident. His tire blew out and he flipped over into the oncoming lane. So Life Imitating Art. And here it is on Nifty Gateway, by the way. So anyways, let's keep running here. Lorna Mills shows up on Super Rare and gets a pretty nice, she must be thrilled, 2 ETH, Maddo, within, I guess within a day. Within 24 hours, Maddo offers 2 ETH and accepted. So very cool to see Lorna Mills on Super Rare. Whoever made that decision to invite her, or I don't know if she applied, but I think it's awesome. I think that really is great for Super Rare to have someone like Lorna Mills. I think that's great. The procession to cavalry, and you see it's awesome. We're back to the road theme here and some pizza and everything. So super cool. Also work by Lorna Mills on Tezos. So on Object here, 3 to get ready. This is an edition of 30 for 15 Tezos. And anyway, kind of a cool Barbie work with some scissors and whatnot. Interesting colors. And a cool work by Françoise Gamma. Continuing. As long as I've been paying attention here in the last year, Françoise Gamma has been exploring this theme of the body in motion and the different ways that can be represented with kind of like this AutoCAD and just different techniques. And here we have another one. Everyone I see just kind of adds credibility to what Françoise Gamma is doing. Buy for 3. None are selling. There's 1 sold, I think. Have any sold? 1 sold to Not a Number. Big shout out to Not a Number. Not a Number knows the score over there. Really cool work by Sabato. Miles to go before I go to sleep. And yeah, so I don't have time to go into everything. He was mentioning Heidegger's Sein und Zeit, which is German for being and time, which is I'd call it unreadable. There are philosophy professors that would disagree. And here he has the pizza guy with Zeit on it. I had to pick up one of these, and just a really cool black and white drawing work from the Chrome Period series by Sabato. Edition of 38 for $8.80. So very cool. Muji, who's also working with Retro Tools, Deluxe Paint, made on retro software, among other processes. Hollow Cake Factory. So again, working with these beautiful gradients from Deluxe Paint. I'll have to try my hand at it, but I'll put that on the list with the Nintendo ROMs and everything else. And let's keep running here. JoyKid with another cool work. This came out over the weekend. Chorus 2023 times JoyKid. So another just very interesting abstract. Abstract GIF. Animated abstract and some more. Pixel Dealer back on the scene. This is from March 3rd, so I don't think I saw this. And you see just how kind of magical Pixel Dealer looks. These are sold out, edition of 11. Only went for 11 Tezos. So pretty reasonable for Pixel Dealer, and this is still available. Almost like a rusted out cube called Hazard, Infected. So very cool. Running through here in Hagluk with another kind of architectural work with flashing and everything. And so, excuse me, Still recovering here. Unlimited Connections 4444. Mason the Third put out a few works. I have one here, another ROM Corruption, interestingly black and white. Thank you, gentlemen. This is rumor control. Here are the facts. So that could be, yeah, that's the spirit of this show here today. And some beautiful work by mech.txt here. Minted, finished. Interesting contrast with this kind of bright, well, not too bright, but this orange leaves here with this kind of mysterious, almost like, I mean, mech.txt, I believe, is in Indonesia. And it kind of has a bit of a, Southeast Asian feeling, the architecture of these buildings here. So anyways, a beautiful work, again, as we've come to expect from mech.txt. And a couple of works by Kappan here that came out, The Sun, and there we go. It is moving again. So really cool. I have a similar, not similar, but I have a work that I feel could hang in the same room or the next room here, also called The Sun. Anyways, really cool black and white work of The Sun. A greater light to rule the day, and here's the other one, The Moon. So just some like really beautiful pixel art, courtesy of Kappan, as again we've come to expect here, and there's the moon. So they pair beautifully, don't they? I really love the canvas size, canvas ratio. Continuing on, Green Ginger with some interesting work here. If you get the dithering right, you can almost do anything. Just do some planets. Like, you might not even need the UFOs. I mean, the UFOs are cool, but I would have been just as happy. It's just the dithering is so beautiful, isn't it? And the colors are beautiful here in this really interesting work by Green Ginger. Again, using kind of a framing device, which is something Michael Micasso has also done. Interesting, isn't it? Outlander's Voyage. And we're going to continue here. This is beautiful. Let's see if there's noise or sound. No audio. And this is on Form Function, and we'll look at the name of the artist in a second here, but just beautiful, kind of, I don't know if we'd call it pixel art, but it's close. Like when you look down here, we're getting pretty close because it's pretty, squarish. So it's kind of right on the edge. Arctic Tendrils by Pixel Quest. So really cool. 25 of 30 sold by now for almost nothing, 0.27. So editions are spreading past object here. It's interesting, I'd say 6 months ago, there was a real sense that only object can do editions because everybody wants one of ones, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like editions really are, people want to collect art and they don't want to spend a fortune for it, and that's spreading to other blockchains, it seems. Manidal. With a beautiful, beautiful work. This is going to go on sale today. Another tarot card. This is Justice, the 11th tarot card. And I have to run. Nicholas Dietrich, Open System. So a really cool work by Nicholas Dietrich, who makes really cool gifts, basically, I'd call. Fine art gifts, courtesy of Nicholas Dietrich. So that is cool. Edition of 20 for 3 Tezos. And Popple, the first 4 Satellitenstadt pieces are sold out on primary. Stoked to see this experimental series of combining pixel art and abstract cityscape and ancient Chinese sigil scripts so well received. Thank you. That is great, isn't it? Like, you gotta love how this scene embraces experimentation. And you gotta love how people will experiment. Again, I love this idea of kind of like quote unquote high art pixel art. I mean, it's awesome. And here are a couple of them. And here, I guess maybe here, it almost looks like the I Ching here. So anyways, interesting. Number 4 and number 3. Nice colors. And again, totally experimental, selling out. Editions at 25. Very cool. Let's just see what they were selling for. 420. So a little inspiration there for Popple. This is super cool. So look at what Rada did for Super Mario Day, which is March 10th. Mario, Mar 10, March 10th is Mario Day, and so made a rat instead of a Super Mario and did quite a fine job of it as well. So that is super cool. Also available for 420 in an edition of 420. So I picked one up. 8-Bits King, super cool. Santiago with a abstract work here. Everyone dancing and a giant wasp came to say hi and show a collection of tiny books and sandwiches they travel with. What I loved about this is, again, this embracing of pixels, which seems to go really nice, kind of chunkier pixels. And that seems to contrast really well with all this other stuff and the kind of free-forming stuff, and even kind of getting swirled in a courageous way by Santiago. Buy for 15, Tezos, edition of 20. I picked one up. Sol Invictus by Don't Be Sovasia. So thank you. Big shout out to Don't Be Sovasia for the tweets there. Again, pretty interesting work, and we're going to see this in the context. I think it's Avaria and Graphica.png. They all have this really cool style that kind of hangs really well together. So current bid 0.069. So you see the power. It's really, because it's not a small amount, 0.069. Like, it's not a ton, but if you're getting $80, it feels really cheap as a collector. And then, but you're still getting $80 for your work. I mean, again, you go to the physical contemporary art world, how many sales are you making? Here you can make sales almost every day if you price it, at the right price. Here's Graphica.png. And this sold for 0.289. So you can get beautiful one-of-ones. This is on Foundation. And just another really edgy work by Graphica.png. Again, you kind of see how these works can hang together. And I believe we have one from Super Rare, also from Graphica. And this is a reserve price of one ETH. So an interesting kind of wide work here from Graphica. Love that artist. And here is Venta. That's who I was trying to remember, Venta. And so a new work from Venta, and I think this is an atom bomb, a mushroom cloud, and we'll look at that very quickly here. And the title, but again, these three artists, you could have a show so easily. Excuse me. Venta times AI. So this sold for 0.15. So, I mean, again, that's still like $180 or whatever it is, right? So not terrible at all. Maybe it's more. It's actually 200 and, if we're at $1,600 ETH, 1.5 is $240. That's totally, that's great. So this is called Nuclear Family. Beautiful, beautiful work from Venta times AI. Another one from Koda Nakazono. And this is Continuum number 73, so just put out over the weekend. The experimentation continues, and just super cool. Continuing on some paintings here, Board Me Social Club. This is how much happens over 72 hours. There's drama and a ton of art. Virgin Tears, so really cool, from Board Me Social Club. Still available, I think, edition of 10 for 5 Tezos. And Working Class Andando Bellico. This is made with Microsoft Paint, so retro tools here. And you got a retro video camera, I think, and a big happy face and everything. So, and someone is being offered, is that a cigar? Maybe something else. And continuing on, Dextier. Let's go. I hope this is the way. So interesting work by Dextier, who's kind of already played with this theme of kind of road trip and kind of this perspective, but kind of a cleaner, quote unquote, cleaner treatment, which is interesting. So still experimenting with style here from Dextier, buy for 4, edition of 10. And look at this. Rare was struggling on his last work, so he started a new one, and it's like, wow, nothing like a great composition to just grab your attention, hey? This one looks like it could go for a lot. This is beautiful. So beautiful work by Rare, and we start over. Sometimes it's good to just cut things loose. Flying Duck by Dan Control. More beautiful work, again, using all gradients here to do just a really interesting, simple idea. And at the head it flies. All the others will soon follow behind it, as he likes to do. And Flora Marquez. So this is a really interesting thing, too, because she's putting out so much work. People have started to look. Mentalist 420, who is buying a lot of her sketches, and we're going to look at the new ones, all of a sudden goes, you know what? I just found her work on Foundation, and these look like older works. And she sold them. And she sold 2 pieces to Mentalist 420. So it helps to just keep yourself out there, doesn't it? And here's some physical work, Analog Day. Again, just from a collector point of view, building credibility. It's like, okay, she works with physical too, and does a very similar thing. And it looks beautiful, actually. And all of a sudden, I'm sure Mentalist 420 is like, well, how much would you want for that? Right? So multi-chain, multimedia, multi-platform, ladies and gentlemen. More works, well, now it's 600 Tezos you have to pay for this. So more works from Flora Marquez. An interesting piece, Board of Domestic Things. I think we have 3 of them. And we have to run here. What is this one? From overwhelming pessimism to tingling optimism in a day, playing with that same sort of style of work. It feels like an 1890s like Punch and Judy thing or something, but I'm not sure. At auction for 17. So doing auctions now, which is interesting, and what I want to become reality. So just really fun, beautiful work. And look at how far she's come since like January 1st when she started this. I mean, it feels like many moons ago. Antonio Loves, I think I missed this. So I wanted to make sure I was checking in on Antonio because I haven't been seeing much. This piece was the first and ends the major arcanas from Angel Saints Prophets collection. So that's probably why. This was the final piece here. So just a more interesting, almost kind of, I want to call it arcane work here. Yeah, arcanas from Antonio Loves. Big shout out. Chup Seath. Music in my mind, the only truth is music. This I think I just saw on Twitter, or maybe it was in someone's collection. I just thought it was cool, and that was just minted this weekend. So finally, we just have a few more here. Ellie Lowe. Let's see if we can play this. Nice textures here, hey? Totally interesting artist. Super interesting artist. So that is minted. I'm not sure if it went for sale yet. Yes, for next to nothing. A Tezos 50. Isn't that interesting? Look at this gorgeous, gorgeous work. I picked one up from Elby, the Big Blue. Look at how beautiful this is. I was tempted to start with this. It's so beautiful. So anyways, it was slow to go at the start, but then it really picked up. Anyway, I just think like just a beautiful, beautiful abstract work. Sometimes things just hit, you know. Pure 12, Ex Mortal. So I don't think we looked at this work. We'll check the date on it. But again, just more interesting video glitch work. This is from, this weekend. And some palm trees, also from Ex Mortal. So pretty cool. And running through Acid Soup with some waffles, glitch waffles, continuing the food series, which again kind of goes well with the modern furniture series by Tezos. So enjoying that. And look at this beautiful work, another work by Elby. Look at this, another beautiful abstract from Elby. I might need to pick this up. Some discs rotating. Available for 5 Tezos, low edition of 10. Gotta love it. We're in the AI, and here's some Anna Dart work. And I think I saw some of this on Twitter when she was in our Twitter spaces. Big shout out to Anna Dart, and I love these works. I'm thrilled to see them minted here. What is the deal? Edition of 7, looks like they've already gone for 25, and so just really interesting. I believe these are raw AI, if I am not mistaken. And here's another one. No Sun, No Name, again, minted on Object. This is an open edition, so you can pick up one of these. So just really interesting color too. Love the color. There's something about it. Ilay with another one, Invitation 2. I think this is part of a Hollywood series. You invite me to your home in West Hollywood overlooking Sunset Strip. So interesting texture here too. So Ilay continues to evolve here. I'm loving seeing that. This is just an interesting work. Projection. Projection changed the world into the replica of one's unknown face. Eliezy Zukowski, who I don't think I've ever shown before. That was just an interesting abstract here. I think we could call that abstract. AI photography, so I'm not sure. And some strange works here. What is this? Pixel art, voxel art, VR, AR, and an interactive token by Ivan Hugo. Buy for 15. So pixel art meets this kind of virtual reality. How cool is that? It's almost like Minecraft going, real life. And also Sky Goodman and Mika Oladev, Interstellar Love Song for No One. So a really detailed 3D work here. So super cool. Big shout out. And finally some physical. Ollie Zukowski getting down to some painting here. And that is fun. And I think we have a finished Unseen Direction, 4 of 11. So I believe this is a physical by Ollie Izakowski. So also someone who comes out of, making physical art as well. And I'm just so for that. It informs your digital art, and digital art will inform your physical. So anyway, big shout out to Ollie Izakowski. And of course, a beautiful work, tying the bow here, of Cinnabon by Die with the Most Likes. And he's really coming along too with his painting style. You gotta love it. I don't think he started that long ago, and you can tell he's just hitting it and hitting it. This is beautiful. Okay, so just, talented guy. And that, my friends, is your show. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, take care.